Welcome to the first lecture of Chapter 3, Lesson 1, and we're going to be talking about Earth systems. So this picture here was taken in 1990, actually on February 14th, 1990. You may look at it and say, did somebody accidentally, set off a camera? Did they leave the lens cap on? No, this is actually a picture. It's part of a picture of the inner solar system from about 3.7 billion miles away. And to put that in perspective, that's 40.5, so more than 40 times the distance of Earth from the Sun. This picture was actually taken out past the orbit of Neptune. That's the furthest recorded distance of any picture of the solar system. So these are actually the sun's rays. And this little pale blue dot right here, that's Earth. That's our home. You zoom in, and because from here it doesn't look like much, literally pale blue dot. You zoom in, and this is a picture of Earth, I believe from the International Space Station. And what do you see in this picture? I mean, it's a picture of Earth. Great. But think more specifically than that. You actually see quite a bit going on in this picture. You see land formations, you see water, you see clouds, you see, the air moving. See, that's the air moving these in these streaks of cloud, and you see this glow here. You're seeing the systems of Earth, and we can really tell a lot from this photograph, and there's really a lot going on. You're seeing the air, you're seeing the water, you're seeing the land, and then there's life itself going on Earth. Now, this outer part here, you're seeing the clouds, and that's actually from two different systems going on, because these clouds are made of water, but there's actually gases and other things going on in there. And then there's the wind itself. We don't see the wind, but we can see its effects. We can feel it. So that's the outermost part of our planet, is all of this air. And then below that, we've got all the water on the planet. And you think about, we know that more than 70% of Earth's surface is covered with water, but even that, just to say water, is kind of very generic, because we've got salt water, we've got fresh water, we've got groundwater, and it's moving from up to down, and it's moving from fresh into saltwater areas, and there's a lot going on there. But then there's water more than just here. There's water in the air, and water underground, and water falling onto the ground, and it's a whole system itself. But you can also see that solid part. There's a lot here just in this photograph. You can see the layers and the curves of the Earth, and these big geographic features, these mountains, and down into valleys. And we've got a whole lot going on the solid part of our planet. But I want to talk about the living part. I want to talk about the biosphere. Biosphere is the Earth system that contains all living things. So we're going to talk about some different spheres throughout this chapter, but we'll just kind of focus on the biosphere today. Now, biosphere comes from two different Greek word parts. The word itself is not Greek, but it comes from two different Greek word parts. Bios, meaning life, and when we talk about biology, it is the study of life. Also, zoology, zoe means life as well, and there's some technical definitions for those words and differences, but bios means life. So when we see biosphere, we're talking about living things. And then sphere comes from sphaira. Um, Try to say that 5 times fast. Sphere, we know, is a globe or a ball. So it's not necessarily things that are living in this, but it's sphere in just the idea of the realm of living things. So when we talk about these different spheres, it's not necessarily things that are sphere shaped like the planet itself, but it's just the idea of the realm of these things. So we're talking about the realm of living things. So when you see a picture like this, we don't immediately think of the biosphere, but there's a lot more to living things than just what we understand as living things. Because we can think of just, well, uh, the land. Well, of course we can see the land, or the water. Of course we can see the water and the air. Um, but the biosphere contains all living things. Now, so life itself on our planet actually dates back to some of the earliest microfossils that we have found just recently are in rocks that are dated about 4.1 billion years. So I want to put that in perspective. Uh, the Earth is thought to have formed 4.5 billion years ago. The oceans are thought to have formed 4.4 billion years ago, and then life 4.1 billion years ago. So it seems that not long after all of these things were formed, the conditions became right for life. Now, granted, it didn't start off the way that we look at it. It's, there wasn't all of these, trees and plants and large animals. It would have started out very small, but that's significant because I want you to think about life that we've talked about outside of our planet. We've talked about they're finding the microfossils on Mars. So that's technically alien life. It's not from this planet, but all we found are something small. We talked about them finding phosphine gas on Venus, which is thought to come from microorganisms in the atmosphere. And we kind of take microscopic life for granted because we don't see it. But that's a pretty significant thing because that's the simplest form of life, single-celled organisms. And so when conditions became right, there was life. And so these fossils that you're looking at here, um, compared to this Canadian penny here, these are in rocks that, like I said, have been dated to 4.1 billion years ago. And we've got microfossils from 3.8, in the geologic timescale, not that long of a period of time, but that's kind of a significant find, especially when we think about like dinosaur fossils, which are dating to 65 million years or 100 million. This is 4.1 billion years, so we can see kind of a progression here. Now, the biosphere includes, like I said, all living things. So I want you to think about plants. That's every blade of grass, every tree, every shrub, and every house plant, all of that, and it's all contributing to this. So I know you're sixth graders, you know that plants are alive. But again, sometimes we take that for granted because their movements are not like that of other animals, and sometimes they're very slow, and the way they grow can be very slow, and it's different than animal life, but it is living, and it does contribute and affect the other spheres, other realms of our planet. And then there's animal life. This is the one that we know. It's covering mammals and fish and reptiles and birds and amphibians, and there's such a huge abundance of different types of animal life on our planet. But it also includes microscopic organisms. So it's just like those earlier evidences of life, we still have lots and lots of microorganisms on our planet. And that includes bacteria and fungi and molds and things like that. Not viruses. That's a whole different set of technically they're not alive, so we won't get into that yet. But bacteria, yes, definitely fit the definition for life. And when we talk about biology later on, we'll really get in depth as to what constitutes a living thing. But the biosphere is unique in that there is life found in every area of our planet. Now it's broken up into sections called biomes or our ecosystems, but there are every part of our planet. So even in Antarctica, they have found microscopic organisms, and in the Arctic, the deepest parts of the ocean, there are things living there. Thermal vents where we have thought nothing could possibly live there, we have found the remains of microscopic organisms. And in fact, that's where these were found, was near thermal vents. So life is all over our planet. Now, that's important for us because our planet is the only one in the solar system that fits these conditions for life, that can have this abundance. Yes, microorganisms can live in very harsh environments, but these larger animals and these plants cannot. So our planet is unique in that it has all of the right conditions. And so here are some of the different biomes or ecosystems on our planet, and you can see that there's different types of life that have thrived in each of these different biomes.